We just got word of an appeals court decision regarding Donald Trump that has huge precedent-setting implications for both Trump and the presidency overall. The court ruled that Trump does not have presidential immunity from lawsuits concerning January 6th.
Federal appeals court just dropped ruling that could end Trump's presidency. And I'm not exaggerating. 3 federal judges unanimously said Trump has no immunity from criminal prosecution, said he can be charged like any other citizen, said being president doesn't protect him from facing criminal trials, and if Supreme Court doesn't reverse this, if this ruling stands, Trump's entire legal strategy collapses. His main defense disappears, and what comes next could be criminal trial, could be conviction, could be sitting president going to federal prison. That's not hyperbole. That's the legal path this ruling just opened up. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into why this is absolutely catastrophic for Trump and why his legal team is probably in total panic mode right now. DC Circuit Court of Appeals just issued unanimous decision saying Trump doesn't get presidential immunity from criminal charges. 3 judges, all agreed, 0 dissent. And the language they used was devastating. Called Trump's immunity theory perilous, said it has no constitutional support, said if they accepted Trump's argument, president could literally commit any crime and never face consequences. Share this video with everyone you know, because here's what Trump's lawyers have been arguing for over a year. They said president has absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts. Absolute immunity, meaning no matter what president does while in office, as long as it's official act, he cannot be charged with crime. So Trump's efforts to overturn 2020 election, official act. His pressure on Mike Pence on January 6th, official act. His calls to state officials telling them to find votes, official act. All of it immune from prosecution according to his legal theory. Think about what that means if courts accepted it. President could do anything, could order illegal actions, could pressure officials to break law, could try to overturn elections, could potentially commit even worse acts, and as long as it's done in official capacity as president, no criminal charges, no prosecution, no accountability, ever. That's the theory Trump's team has been pushing. Ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. But appeals court just said absolutely not. Said that theory is dangerous to American democracy. Said it would make president above the law. Said it would create office with no legal limits and no criminal accountability. And court is not willing to accept that. Issued unanimous ruling rejecting Trump's immunity claims entirely. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show, because court specifically used phrase Citizen Trump in their ruling. Said Trump has become Citizen Trump with all the legal defenses of any other criminal defendant, but without immunity that may have protected him while president. That's court saying you're not special anymore. You're a regular person now. Regular people can be prosecuted for crimes, and so can you. Now here's where this gets really significant. Trump is currently sitting president, right now, and he's facing federal criminal charges for his conduct on January 6th and his attempts to overturn 2020 election. Special counsel Jack Smith brought these charges. Grand jury indicted Trump, and Trump's entire defense strategy has been get these charges dismissed on immunity grounds before case ever goes to trial. That was the plan. Argue immunity, get case thrown out, never face jury, never have to defend himself on facts, never let prosecutors present their evidence, just claim immunity and walk away. But if this appeals court ruling stands, that plan is finished. Case can't be dismissed on immunity, which means case goes to trial. Jury hears evidence, and Trump has to actually defend his actions instead of hiding behind immunity claim. And what happens next could be unprecedented, could be sitting president on trial for federal crimes while serving as president, could be president having to appear in court, listen to witnesses testify against him, watch prosecutors present evidence of his conduct, all while trying to run the country, all while dealing with political fallout, all while facing possibility of conviction in prison. And government's case is strong according to legal experts who have analyzed the evidence. There's video of Trump's January 6th speech where he told crowd to march to Capitol. There's testimony from Trump's own advisors about his efforts to overturn election. There's recorded phone call where Trump pressured Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, told him find 11,780 votes, exact number Trump needed to win Georgia. That's on tape. Trump's own voice saying it. There's testimony from Mark Meadows about what Trump was doing in weeks after election. There's evidence Trump was told repeatedly by his own lawyers and advisors that his election fraud claims were false, that courts had rejected his lawsuits, that recounts confirmed Biden won, and Trump kept pushing those claims anyway, kept trying to overturn results anyway. That's consciousness of guilt, that's intent, that's what prosecutors use to prove criminal conduct. Think about what that means for Trump if case goes to trial. Jury hears all this evidence, sees the video, hears the phone call, listens to witnesses, and Trump has to convince them he did nothing wrong, has to argue his conduct was appropriate, was legal, was within his authority as president. That's much harder defense than just claiming immunity and getting case dismissed. Now let me talk about the timing of this because it matters enormously. Supreme Court also just made decision about Trump's New York criminal case. Trump was convicted in New York State Court for falsifying business records, convicted by jury. That already happened. Trump is already convicted criminal. First president in American history to be convicted of crimes, and he tried to get Supreme Court to stop his sentencing. Share this video because Trump's argument was he shouldn't have to be sentenced while serving as president, said it would interfere with his duties, would be distraction, would undermine his ability to govern. And Supreme Court said no, said sentencing can proceed, said burden on Trump's presidential duties would be minimal, said any legal issues can be dealt with on appeal like any other case. So Trump showed up for sentencing, had to appear in court, had to stand before judge, had to submit to criminal justice process, and judge sentenced him to unconditional discharge. Basically, lightest possible sentence, no prison time, no fine. But Trump was still convicted, still sentenced, still had to go through the process. Supreme Court didn't stop it, didn't give Trump special protection just because he's president. Please subscribe because that signals how Supreme Court might handle Trump's federal cases if they result in conviction. Supreme Court basically said being president doesn't shield you from criminal justice system, doesn't give you immunity from being prosecuted, tried, convicted, sentenced. All of that can happen to sitting president according to Supreme Court's actions. And here's where the contradiction in Trump's position becomes obvious. Trump claims he has absolute immunity for official acts as president, but he's also claiming his conduct around January 6th and election overturn attempts were official acts. So according to Trump's own theory, trying to overturn election is official presidential business. Think about how insane that is. President's official job includes trying to overturn elections he lost? That's what Trump is arguing. But courts are rejecting that. Appeals court said overturning elections is not core presidential function. Protecting Constitution and respecting election results is core function. So interfering with peaceful transfer of power is way outside scope of legitimate presidential authority, is not protected by any immunity, is criminal conduct that can be prosecuted. And Trump's lawyers now have massive problem. Their entire strategy was based on immunity defense. They built everything around getting charges dismissed before trial, didn't prepare for scenario where they actually have to defend Trump's actions on merits, didn't develop strong factual defense, just relied on immunity. And now immunity defense is collapsing. So what do they do now? How do they defend Trump at trial when government has video evidence, witness testimony, recorded phone calls, documentary proof? How do they convince jury Trump did nothing wrong when his own advisors told him his claims were false and he kept making them anyway? How do they explain away the pressure on state officials, the calls to find votes, the efforts to get Pence to reject electoral votes? And Trump makes it harder on himself constantly. Can't stop talking about the cases, can't stop attacking judges, can't stop claiming he's being persecuted. Every time he does that, he gives prosecutors more evidence of his state of mind, more proof he understands the legal jeopardy he's in, more ammunition for consciousness of guilt arguments. Think about what this means for Trump's presidency going forward. He's already dealing with Republican rebellion in Congress, GOP members voting against him on war powers resolution, Don Bacon threatening to support impeachment over Greenland, Mike Johnson unable to control House, Republicans forcing discharge petitions on bills Johnson doesn't want voted on, party fracturing in real time. Now add to that, Trump facing criminal trial as sitting president, having to deal with legal proceedings while trying to govern, having to watch his legal defenses collapse while dealing with political crises, having to face possibility of conviction and prison while serving as president. That's untenable situation. That's crisis that could consume his entire presidency. Midterm elections are coming. Democrats are watching Trump's legal troubles, watching immunity defenses fall apart, watching possibility of criminal trials and conviction, and they're preparing campaign strategy around it. Every Democratic candidate will hammer Republicans on supporting president facing criminal charges, on backing someone who could go to prison. Republicans are going to have to answer for that, have to explain why they're still supporting Trump when courts are saying he can be prosecuted, when his immunity claims are being rejected, when path to conviction is opening up. Some Republicans might start distancing themselves, might decide supporting Trump is political liability they can't afford. And Trump's approval numbers are already declining. Policies aren't working. Tariffs are raising prices. Foreign policy is creating crises. Greenland obsession is making him look unhinged. Now add criminal trials and collapsing legal defenses to that. Add possibility of sitting president being convicted of crimes. That's weight that drags down entire Republican Party. Share this video because here's what could happen next if this keeps developing. Supreme Court could take up Trump's immunity appeal, could issue final ruling on whether president has immunity from prosecution. If Supreme Court agrees with appeals court, if they reject Trump's immunity claims, that's end of that defense forever. Case proceeds to trial. Or Supreme Court could reverse appeals court, could say president does have some immunity for official acts, could send case back to lower courts to determine which of Trump's actions were official and which weren't. That would delay trial, would give Trump more time, would keep his legal strategy alive little bit longer. But even if Supreme Court gives Trump some immunity, it probably won't be absolute immunity for everything he did. Supreme Court already ruled in different case that presidential immunity has limits, that it doesn't apply to all official acts, that you have to look at whether act was core presidential function. And overthrowing elections is not core presidential function, so Trump might get limited immunity for some things, but not immunity for his election overturn attempts. Think about what that means. Best case scenario for Trump is he gets partial immunity that doesn't actually protect him from the main charges he's facing. Worst case scenario is he gets no immunity at all and case proceeds to trial immediately. Either way, his legal situation is deteriorating. Now let me talk about what prison would actually look like for sitting president if it came to that, because this is unprecedented territory. Never had sitting president convicted of federal crimes and sentenced to prison. Don't know how that would work practically. Would Secret Service have to protect him in prison? Would he govern from prison? Would cabinet invoke 25th Amendment and remove him? Those are questions that have never been answered because we've never had this situation before. But Trump's immunity defense collapsing means we might have to answer them. Might have to figure out what happens when sitting president is convicted and sentenced to federal prison. Republican senators are watching this. Some already voted to restrict Trump's war powers, some already expressing concerns about his foreign policy, some already questioning whether they can continue supporting him. If Trump's legal situation gets worse, if he's facing trial and conviction, more Republicans might break from him. Mike Johnson might lose control of House entirely. Members might caucus with Democrats to make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker. Might decide only way to save Republican Party is distance themselves from Trump completely. Might calculate that Trump is liability they can't afford politically. And Trump keeps making it worse, keeps doing things that create more legal exposure, keeps attacking judges, which could lead to contempt charges, keeps making statements that prosecutors can use as evidence, keeps refusing to back down or moderate his behavior. That pattern shows he's not going to change, not going to suddenly become careful and cautious, going to keep pushing boundaries until something breaks. Bottom line is this. Federal appeals court ruled Trump has no immunity from criminal prosecution. 3 judges unanimously rejected his immunity claims, said he's citizen Trump now, regular person subject to regular laws. If this ruling stands, Trump's main legal defense is gone. His strategy for avoiding trial collapses. Path opens for criminal proceedings against sitting president. And if case goes to trial, conviction becomes real possibility. Government has strong evidence. Video, testimony, phone calls, documents. Trump would have to defend his actions on merits. Would have to convince jury he did nothing wrong. That's much harder than hiding behind immunity. If Trump gets convicted, prison becomes possible. Supreme Court already signaled they'll let criminal justice system work normally, even for president. So if judge imposes prison sentence, that could actually happen. Could have sitting president going to federal prison. Unprecedented, catastrophic, but legally possible now according to courts. This sets up scenario where Trump could face trial while serving as president. Could be convicted while in office, could be sentenced to prison while trying to govern, all because his immunity defense is collapsing, all because courts are saying president is not above the law. Trump's legal shields are falling away. His options for avoiding accountability are disappearing. His immunity claims are being rejected by courts. And what's coming next could be criminal trial of sitting president. Could be conviction, could be prison. This is federal court clearing path for Donald Trump to face criminal justice. This is his final defense falling apart in real time. This story continues developing. Stay tuned.